Hi everyone, and it's good to see you. Welcome back. Before I get into this week's video, which is going to be very cross-stitchy, I'm going to walk you through a brief whip update and a little bit of a haul. We're going to do kind of a unboxing. Well, it's a bag, but an unboxing because I just went out to the mailbox and found that, and I'm super excited about it. So we're going to open it and see what's inside. So yeah. First brief whip update, and we're 2 weeks behind since I didn't do one with the Stitch With Me last week. Thank you to those of you that have been reaching out to give me feedback, mostly through Instagram or through Facebook. I really appreciate all your feedback. I welcome more feedback from anyone that wants to. Also, please feel free to leave comments on the videos, likes, comments, and subscribes. Help Facebook's algorithm get me out to more people. More people means more suggestions for different things to do. And yeah, and it keeps me motivated because it's really exciting to me when you reach out and you say hi, or I see that you've liked a video, or I see that I have a new subscriber. It's a really good feeling. So thank you for that. Anyway, whip update. I'm gonna be real for a second. I don't really have a lot for you, even though it's been 2 weeks since my last one, and that's because I suffer from depression and I'm going through kind of a bad phase right now. I'm down in a low, and instead of spending all weekend stitching like I would normally do when I had nothing else to do, I spent most of the weekend in bed. But I'm fine, and I'm dealing with it, and I'm coping, and I will be back stronger than ever. But just a note to people out there that might be having a hard time, I feel you. I know it's not all sunshine and roses right now, so if you need to talk, please feel free to reach out. I'm happy to listen. And yeah, there's that. But anyway, I did manage to get some stuff done. I have 2 new starts for you, in fact, and I have no idea what's wrong with me either. I've got 27 things going, and my idea is, let's do some new starts. So those will be in there. You'll see them as we go. So here, yeah. I got a very tiny bit done on this one. This is Defying Gravity. So, as you can see, I just added a little bit of black to the green I already had done. It wasn't even 100 stitches. This one night I just picked it up when I was done with a couple other things, and got tired and went to bed before I'd made too much progress on it. But it is moving slowly but surely, and that one's gonna take a while. One that I got a little bit more progress done on is sunflowers. It's starting to look like a sunflower, and I love this fabric. I love it so much, but it is so hard to see the holes. I know people love opal. I don't. It's hard for me to stitch on, but doesn't it look awesome when it's done? So yeah, I got some good progress on the center of this. Again, slowly but surely churning it out. This one is nowhere near as big as Defying Gravity. So hopefully it'll start to look like something soon. Temperature stitch along. I'm gonna be honest, I am a week behind. I'm filming this on Tuesday, which is normally my update day. Because of the stuff I just talked about, I got out of bed like 3 hours late, and I'm gonna have just enough time to record this and edit before I have to leave for work. But since I didn't do a whip update last week with the Stitch With Me, there wasn't really much to update. You saw it all because I pretty much just powered through on Natsu and finished that one. And you saw the finish, so there wasn't really much else to update besides this one. And now I'm kind of glad I didn't, because you get something new to see. So this is current through last Monday. And you can see we've still got the nice warm temperatures. Actually, it was kind of interesting. I had my first two 90-degree days. You can't see it too well here, but these two here are actually red rather than the orange that's on either side. Those were my first two 90-degree days. It's 90 degrees right now, so the next time you see this, it'll have more red on it. It's turning out beautifully, and yeah, I normally update on my Instagram on Tuesdays for the temperature stitch along, but I'm not going to because today is June 30th. So if I wait until tomorrow, I can get the entire first half of the year done and up on Instagram. And I honestly didn't think I would stick with this for a whole half a year. So it's really exciting to see it come together. As always, it's gorgeous. I love this design. I'm so glad I found the Enablers cross-stitch group. Linda, thank you for designing a beautiful, beautiful stitch along. And yeah, I'm really enjoying it, and I'm looking forward to having a full half a year done and being halfway done with this one tomorrow. So, and that brings me to my two new starts. The first one, I don't think I'm too crazy for doing it. It was something I had promised a friend a long time ago. When she found out she was pregnant after years and years of trying, I had promised I'd do something for her baby's room. But they're in the process of remodeling a house. And so I knew that Grandma was going to be painting a mural in the baby's room. And I said, wait until the mural is done and the room is decorated and you know what you want it to look like, and then I will send you some ideas and you can pick one. And so that happened the last couple weeks, and so my first start is that. She chose Harry Potter, and so this is my start on that one. I was going to do the personalization myself. Ended up it just being too much for me right now. It was harder than I wanted to think. Math is not my favorite thing, which is weird for a scientist to say, but it's not. So I ended up going back and paying the designer to do the personalization. So while I was waiting for that to happen, I just went ahead and filled in some of the background of the chart, started filling in Harry over here. I had started in on some of the letters that were on the blank template and found out that one of the reasons I asked her to do it was she had a space for a single digit ounces here, and my friend's child was 7 pounds 11 ounces, and I wasn't sure how to fit that in the space for just one. And I was right about that, so this is actually going to have to move over. So I'm going to have to frog that. So pretend that's not there, and then this is how much I've got done. So it'll be Harry over here in the corner flying on his broomstick, and then his name, his birth date, birth weight, time, and then birthplace over here. And it'll look adorable when it's done, but it's going to be a hot minute before that happens. So yeah, that was my first start. My second start is probably the one that everybody's been talking about, and if you continue watching the video past this point, which is going to be kind of a cross-stitch tutorial, and I explain more about that in the part I've previously recorded, you'll hear the story of Pandemic if you're not already familiar with it. But yeah, I started Pandemic. As you can see, it's gonna take a long time because it's a big piece, and I've got just a tiny little corner done. This is 18 count Da Vinci Ada from Picture This Plus. I am doing monotone. This is my first long dog sampler. I'm doing monotone 37.99 dark pewter gray. So yeah, there's my barely start on this one. This is going to be a several years long project, because I'm just going to pick it up in between some of the other ones. But that's my other start. I have one more whip update for those of you my yarny friends. and that is my shawl. So as you can see, I got my circular needles. I hit the halfway point yesterday. There's 70 rows done, 70 left to go. And so try to spread it out a little bit, but it likes to go on the curve. So yeah, here is the shawl as I've got it done so far. It looks absolutely nothing like the video or like the pattern that I saw. And I know a lot of that is because it needs to be blocked and stretched. And yeah, when I stretch it, you can kind of see the pattern start to take shape. The other thing that's kind of confusing me is, for some reason, the two meshes are reversed. And you can kind of see that here if you look close. These are the same pattern, but if you look, this one looks more stockinette-ish, like right side stockinette, and then this side looks more wrong side. And stockinette is just, it's not actually stockinette stitch, but. And then if you flip it over, it's the reverse, where this one looks like a reverse and this one looks like the stockinette. I don't know how I did that. It's the same pattern. It's supposedly, I used the same right and wrong sides, and I've been counting my rows, so I have no clue how that happened, but it is definitely going to be a design feature. So that's my progress on my shawl. It's about halfway, but it's going to take a lot longer to get to the end than it did to get to halfway because it's been expanding in width every other row. So the first row was 3 stitches wide, and now I think I'm up to 139 stitches wide, and it grows with every row. So rows are taking a lot longer to complete than they did when I started. But we're making slow progress on it. I'm back to work in lab full-time. I don't have to work a day at home anymore. So my webinar stitch days are a thing of the past, so that's another thing that's going to slow down progress on this one. But I try to remember to do a row or two before I go to bed after I get done with my stitching for the night. So hopefully it won't completely stall out. So that's my WIP update for the week. One more thing, like I said, my knit crate came today. I've seen, it's been super delayed. It normally wouldn't be this much, but because of COVID stuff, things got tied up in Peru where the yarn was coming from, and so it's only been in the US for not very long. So they got mine out to me. But I have seen the blog reveal for the June colors, and they were all gorgeous. I have an Anything Goes membership, which means I can get any one of the 3. It just depends on which one they feel like sending me. Gotta be honest, I'm hoping it's the cool colors. But all 3 of them are gorgeous, and I'll be happy with whichever one I got. So let's see what's in here, huh? Oh, I didn't get the cool color. I got the warm. So, still gorgeous. Look at that. Audine Woods Interlock. The colorway is called Pigment. And it's 34% cotton, 35% linen, 19% lyocell, and 11% nylon. So this is definitely a different type of yarn than I have ever used. I got 2 skeins of it. And I've already seen the pattern for this month. There are two patterns. One is crochet, which is getting very close on my list of things to do, but I'm not there yet. So I am going to be using this to make a bag that the pattern is available waiting for me online. Sorry, that's what I was reading the card to see where I could go get the pattern. And yeah, so that will probably be, I don't know if that'll be my next project or the socks that I showed you the yarn I had for them a few weeks ago, but we'll see. So yeah, This really is a pretty orange. I normally don't like orange, but I like this one. So there we go. That is what I have for a whip update. There's my unboxing, as kind of unexciting as it was. And now I am going to cut over to the video, which I don't want to call them tutorials because I don't feel like I am not a cross-stitch professional by any means. I do it for fun, I do it my way, and so that's what I am calling these little, like, well, I guess they kind of are tutorials, but glimpses into the way that I learned how to cross-stitch and the way that I work a project. I'm calling them cross-stitch my way. So here is the first one of those, and I hope you enjoy it. Hi everybody! Well, we're going to try something a little bit different today. I had a friend of mine who watches the channel and pointed out that not everybody who watches my channel is a cross-stitcher. I know I have some knitters, I know I have some people that crochet, do other crafts, do artsy stuff. And she said it might be nice to kind of do a little tutorial on how to cross-stitch. So I thought that I might try doing a series of what I'm going to call cross-stitch my way. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I am firmly in the camp that I don't think there is a right or a wrong way to do stitching. If it turns out in a way that you're happy with it, then that's the right way to do it. Now, if you're ever interested in entering it in any fairs or anything where your work might be judged competitively, that's a different story. And a lot of the things I'm going to teach you, the way I learned, are the quote-unquote right ways, at least as I was told, to do things in cross-stitch. But again, if it makes you happy, if it looks okay to you, do it your way. Some of these things may be tips if you are a new cross-stitcher and things are not looking the way that you would like them to look. Some of these may help give you that look that you're looking for, because there are reasons behind, other than just it being the right way to do it, there are reasons behind a lot of the quote-unquote rules that I'm going to be discussing. So today is going to be the very brief introduction to this. I'm starting a new project. If you've been around the cross-stitch community at all in the last week or so, a lot of people are starting this project that I'm starting. If you're familiar with long dog samplers, and I am going to try very hard to say that right, because if you say it fast, it comes out sounding kind of dirty. So if I do, I apologize, but I am going to try to say it right. But long dog samplers, they create beautiful, as the name would imply, sampler pieces, and they're coming up next year on their 25th anniversary. So since these are really detailed, really gorgeous pieces, they take a while to design. And the designers began last year creating this piece. And in a moment of insane prescience, the name of this piece was, way back then, Pandemic. So obviously, now that they're done with it, it seemed like the appropriate time to release that sampler, and what they did, they very kindly released it for free for a week. It was able to be downloaded from their website. Everybody in all of my cross-stitch groups, well, not everybody, but a lot of people in all of my cross-stitch groups downloaded this piece and are all starting it. It's kind of the buzz right now. So I am one of those people, and since I am starting a new project today, I thought it was a good time to just run over how I start projects and how I work on them. So we're going to go over a few things today in this tutorial. We're going to go over a corner start, a loop start, and a basic cross stitch, along with a little bit of reading a pattern and kind of how to understand a pattern. So yeah, I'm going to try again with my goofy headset thing. I think I've got it focused in. I really hope so. And yeah, let's get going and let's see how this goes. So the first thing we're going to do is go over basically how a pattern, what a cross stitch pattern looks like and how you would work on it. And normally this would be a huge no-no if you're doing any sort of cross stitch, is to put like a full large chunk of a pattern where it's visible, but this is my pattern that I designed, so I can do that because it would technically be my copyright. Otherwise, it's a big intellectual property issue. Please don't be distributing people's patterns for free, even chunks of them. So yeah, basically, when you see a cross-stitch pattern, this is the sort of thing you're going to see. It's laid out in a grid. If it's more than one page, it should be numbered. Most of them will have a page order overview to give you an idea of the sizes or which order the pages go in on the piece. And the other thing that you're going to see always is a legend. So what each symbol is, the name brand of the company. DMC is by far the most common, but you will see there are a number of others, Anchor, JP Coats, then you get into the overdyes, where you'll get Weeks Dye Works, Crescent Color Works, just all kinds of different Threadworks, all kinds of different thread providers or floss providers. So it will give you, I usually do black and white, but if I didn't, these would be in color in a rough shade that matched the color of the floss. So yeah, there you go. There will be all of your colors. Sometimes it'll give you the number of stitches in the corner. I did this in Pixel Stitch and it provides the number of stitches that are done in each color. You'll get a size. This one nicely also gives you the size of fabric that you need. I programmed this one in for 18 count Ada, obviously. So it'll give you your dimensions, and that gives you an idea of what size fabric to buy. This is by no means always there. What you'll usually get is you'll usually get the number of stitches, and from there you have to do math to figure out what size fabric you need. There's a great fabric calculator from Yarn Tree online that I will link in the show description that can help you do that. But once you get here, this is the size of the finished design. This is not, this doesn't include any extra space for framing. If you want to have a mat around the edge, or if you want to have an amount of blank space around the edge before the design starts, between the design and the frame, that is not taken into account. I generally add 3 inches per side to my fabric. That gives me enough room for framing. If I wanted a border or a mat, I would add even more. The calculator I will link to also does that. So then you have your pattern. And as you can see, you'll come into a square and it will have all of your symbols. This one did the background and I don't like it, but a lot of times these will be like, if it's full coverage, this will be what you'll see, where it'll be pattern, it'll be symbols edge to edge. Sometimes it will not be, they'll just be white space. Those would be spaces that you wouldn't stitch in, obviously. So again, yeah, this just tells you for this 10 by 10 section, this first row, you would do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 stitches in this light blue, and then 1 stitch in this darker blue. And then in the next row, you would do 7 stitches and 3, and you just go like that all the way down, and that gives you an idea of how to follow a pattern. So how do you get started though? There are 2 different ways that you can start. The first one that we're going to do today is called a corner start. I'll be honest, I very rarely use this. I prefer the other method, which is a center start, but because pandemic is so big and I'm going to be using Pattern Keeper, it's just easier to start in a corner. So let's show you how to start in a corner. This is my fabric for Pandemic. It's 18 count Aida. The color is Da Vinci by Picture This Plus. It's a hand dyed, and this will be the first time I've ever done a corner start on a hand dyed, hand dyed fabric. And the reason for that is fabrics tend to shrink during the dyeing process. The only reason I feel comfortable doing a corner start on this one is because I actually measured it before I got started, and I discovered that it is it's actually 2 inches longer than it was supposed to be. So that was a pleasant surprise, but normally I would do a center start because what happens is that the fabric will shrink, and then it's not what was 24 inches across when it went into the dyeing process is now not 24 inches across. And if you start in a corner, you will not be centered anymore because of that. In those cases, if I had to do a corner start, what I would usually do is I would usually actually count squares in. Because, for instance, this is 18 count Aida, which means 18 squares per inch. So if I wanted to move in 3 inches, it would be 18 times 3 inches. And I don't feel like counting 54 squares in right now. So I am going to do the good old measuring tape. Like I said, this is a little bit longer than I had anticipated, so I ended up measuring, I think 3.8 inches in and 5.5 inches down will put me on the edge that would keep this centered when I got started. So I'll show you how I did that. Okay, confession time. I kind of cheated. I didn't want to actually do this for the first time with anyone watching me, so I've actually already marked it. This hole on the left where the needle goes in is the start point. But I am going to double check that. So I said 5.5 inches down from the top. And this is how I measured it the first time. So 5.5 inches down, and then 3.8 inches in. And you can see right there. So that is how you do a corner start. The place where the needle goes in is the first open corner on the chart. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that that is where you don't get to see my passcode. Hopefully this is not too much of the pattern. But as you can see, the topmost corner of the fabric is not necessarily where this starts. It actually starts, this is a 10 by 10 square, so it starts in the 7th row down, 7, 8, 9, 10, and in the 9th row in. 9, 10. So I'm going to have to count down 7, or down 6 and in 8. Down 7 and in 8 before I can get started. So before we can actually get started, there are a couple other things we have to do. Well, not have to do. There are a couple other things that I do to get ready. One of them you have to do. You have to thread your needle. The other one is optional, and that is mounting the fabric in some sort of frame or other or hoop or something to hold the fabric tight. Some people don't do this. Some people stitch in hand. More power to them. I can't do that, except on very small projects that actually don't fit in any of my hoops, and it's frustrating for me and it goes really slow. But if that's the way you're comfortable stitching, again, like I said, as far as I'm concerned, there's no right or wrong way to do this. But getting your needle threaded. Again, I said we're going to do a loop start, which means that we are going to use one strand of 18 count. I want to use 2 strands of floss. But for a loop start, that means I actually only take out 1 strand from the skein. So you take out the amount that you want, and for me, for a loop start, I usually take out 4 lengths. Now to get out 1 thread, probably the easiest way I found is you just grab a hold of 1 strand and just pull it out. And of course it knotted. It normally doesn't do that. So just pull it out and you have your 1 strand. Now you just fold it in half, match the ends. And here's another matter of personal preference. Some people do not like to lick their thread. I grew up learning to lick my thread. I don't have any beeswax or thread magic or whatever those people do, so I lick my thread. At any rate, you have to get those 2 ends stuck close enough together to actually pass them through the eye of your needle. So for me, I lick my thread. Then you pass it through your needle and you're ready to start. And you'll notice on the back end you have a loop. And that's going to be why it's called a loop start. Okay, so like I said, the last thing that I have to do before I get ready to actually work is to put my fabric in some sort of frame or something that's going to give it the tension that I am most comfortable with when I work. Depending on the size, there are several different things that I would use. I have a spring tension hoop. I love this hoop. This is actually the hoop that I started with when I learned how to cross stitch at like 8 or 9 years old. So it probably counts as an antique, but it still works just fine. I like the spring tension because it gives a nice, good tension to the fabric that I didn't seem to get with some of the other hoops that had the twist. So there's that. But for bigger ones, I am rapidly falling in love with the Q-snap. And the Q-snap is, basically it's a frame. You can see it comes apart. So they are adjustable. This one is an 11 by 11. I like it because it gives me more space to work with, and the tension on these is fantastic. Now make sure that if you're doing this and you want the good tension, that you buy an actual Q-snap frame. Q-S-N-A-P. Because there are some generic brands out there. I think Hobby Lobby has their own version, and Michaels have their own version, and from what I've heard, they don't hold tension as well. So, what I do, you line the fabric up with the outer edge of the frame. I'm going to be starting in the corner, and I'm going to be working my way across and down. So I kind of want that near the edge of where I kind of want that to be near the left side and near the top of where I am going to be working. So and then I am just going to snap it in place. The one thing I do is I do put these on towards the front, and then when I turn it, that increases the fabric tension. So there you go. And it's nice and taut. My starting is up here in the corner. Oh, I have one more thing I need to do. Where is it? Okay, I'm back. I forgot the most important part, and that is my needle minder. So I'm going to use She-Ra for this one because it's fun. And so basically, I'll put the resin on the front, attach the other magnets to the back. So now that is sticking there. And while I'm trying to figure stuff out, I'm not going to lose my needle. So, like I said earlier, I need to come 7 down from the top start and come 8 in. So, there is my start. I'm going to go ahead and move this needle out now that I have my actual threaded needle underneath it. That's start. So we're going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then the next one is the 9th stitch. So this is the first stitch. I'm going to bring my thread most of the way through. I am going to start the X. And now here's where the loop start comes in. I am going to flip this over. And here's the loop on my thread. I'm going to pass the needle through it. And now that is secured into the fabric. It's a great cheat. And I'm going to work in squares of 20. So I need to do 12 stitches here. Now there are 2 ways that you can do a full cross stitch, and this is the last thing I'm going to show you today is the full cross stitch. This is a half stitch where you just go from the bottom left to the top right. Or you can go from the top right to the bottom left, or the top left to the bottom right. It doesn't matter, however you want to do your first half. That's a half stitch though, it's just 1/2 of the cross. There are 2 ways to do a full cross stitch. The first one is the English method, and that is where you do each cross individually. So you'd come down bottom right, go back up top left, and there's your X. That's not the way I stitch. I use the Danish method, which is you do all of your half stitches going one direction first, and then you come back and do the other half. So, wow, this fabric is really hard to see. So you would do, say I wanted to do 5 stitches. I would do, oh, and we already have a knot. you would do all 5 of the first half stitches, and then you would work your way back. Like so. So there you have it. There is how you would get started on a new project using a corner start on your fabric and a loop start on your thread, and that is how you do a full cross stitch. Now there are plenty more things to learn. Different starts for your floss. What if you have an odd number of strands that you want to use? I prefer the lasso stitch for that. There are fractional stitches. What's a quarter stitch? What's a 3/4 stitch? Back stitching. There are some things I haven't learned yet. I've mentioned before I have to learn how to do French knots. I'd like to learn turkey stitch, and I would like to learn pin stitch. So we'll probably have some tutorials of me fumbling my way through learning those. But this is your basic introduction to how I start a cross stitch project, and I hope that it's been helpful. So that's it for today. I hope that that was helpful to some people that maybe just starting out wanting to learn how to cross stitch. Like I said, there's really no right or wrong way, in my opinion. And so, but hopefully this gives you an idea of how to get started and how to develop your own style. And I feel free to send me any questions that you might have, any comments, suggestions, and that's it. And I guess I will see you next week. Next week is an off week, which is good because I'm going to be out of town this weekend, so I wouldn't have time to make an in-depth video anyway. It's supposed to just be a whip parade, but it might be kind of short on whips. So it might be a really short week because I'm going to be out of town and I don't know how much time I am going to have to work. I'm going to see my family for the first time since this whole COVID thing started. I'm still a little nervous. It's probably not the best idea I've ever had, but I need to see them. So I hope everybody has a great week. I hope you stay safe. Hope you stay happy, and I hope you stay healthy. And I will see you next time. Bye.